connect well together.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, right down where, we've touched on this, and I know, Patrice, you've talked about this. Jessica, you were just talking about this. The 800-pound, grill in the room was COVID. We've all been dealing with that. Okay, and so what is your experiences right now? I mean, I know that I personally have an uncle in one community and a mom in another one, and trying to figure out what visitations. I mean, it's a weird world right now. Could you kind of fill people in on what to expect, like in your world, and how you guys are dealing with it?
Can I
Yes,
answer that?
I would like to.
Sure,
I
you all
know
can answer
Patrice,
that. That's the whole idea. So yeah.
Patrice's building is a COVID positive building, specifically because they're accepting patients from the hospital who are COVID positive and unable to go home.
Right.
But really, all of us follow the CDC guidelines, and it's different in every building based on county that they're in, based on the number of employees that may have tested positive, based on whether they're a skilled nursing setting or an assisted living setting, or even an independent living setting. The guidelines that are set forth for us are all different. And so it changes every day. I might be in a building where we can have visitors one day, and then the next day we can't because maybe a staff member or a resident tested positive. So now we have to shut the doors, do our contact tracing and all of that. So it's just know that we're following what the state and the federal government are guiding us through from a CDC standpoint. And all of our goal really is to make sure that we keep our residents safe and healthy as we possibly can.
To piggyback off of Vicki, what we are doing with the families, because they cannot actually come into the communities right now, is we have our FaceTime, we have text messaging, we have phones in their room where they can talk directly to them. We have the window visits, we have compassionate visits when things are not going in the right direction that we would hope, where the families can still come in and visit and spend that quality time with them. It's been very difficult for our team, when people are not doing well. But our team, we have one team that take care of them. There's one door that they go in and out of. They change their clothing coming into the uniforms that they wear in the building. When they leave for the day, they shower, they clean up, they put on their clothes to go back home. Their clothes are left behind to get showered. Their shoes are left here, so they're not bringing germs in and out. So we consistently following the CDC guidelines, making sure that people are safe. And I tell you, I was walking past, we have a glass door, you can see them sometimes, they're like a foreign country back there. They got on all of this PPE, they got on masks, they got on goggles, they got on, gloves and things. And sometimes they have to tell the residents are nervous because they feel like they got something that they're never going to be able to recover from. So they start building relationships with them. Sometimes they go in and just sit at bedside and talk with them and watch a little TV with them, or do some coloring, or put some music on, or read the Bible to them. So we let the family members know it's just like our family members. We love them, and we want to make sure that they're getting the best care, but we want them to feel loved too, because they can't touch their loved ones and all they have is us. And sometimes we're in there holding their hand at the last breath, or we're in there holding their hand when they're just overwhelmed with the fact that they can't be with their house, in their home, they can't be with their families. The holidays are coming. It's making them extremely anxious. I'm getting ready to cry, you guys, because it's so overwhelming at times. But but we have good faith, and we have a lot of good staff that's taking care of them. But the basic thing, the main thing is to make sure that they get those FaceTime visits, that they get those window visits, that they're sitting up in their chair and they go into therapy. We call in the families, everybody, all of the team members the leadership team have 2 or 3 of the residents that they constantly call in the families and talking to them daily, or texting them, or sending pictures. They'll say, "Will you take a picture of mom today with her teddy bear so my son can see it, that what we gave her? Could you do that?" We do whatever we can. And the thing is to make it a community of love for them, because this is life or death right now. And they don't know if they're going back home. And so we're doing everything we can, you guys. Sorry.
Well, I will
One
tell
thing
you
I-
that I didn't know about the fact that you guys were frontline on this, you know, what you guys are doing until this conversation tonight. And like Jessica talking about bringing in people on the weaning off events, you know,
Mhm.
so, and I'll bring Jessica in on this as well, because you guys are doing, in the front line that most people are not having to deal with. Most communities are not dealing with, you know, anywhere close to what you guys are doing. So that's why I really was wanting to get your frontline experience. So Jessica, you want to get in on this or?
Yeah, I can. So I know everyone building is, I mean, we're following the CDC guidelines. That's a lot. I feel like they change every 3 hours.
Yeah.
But we are hanging in there. So we went from a COVID positive building. This building got hit back really hard in April. Our management team went down. Our staff went down. We were working 16, 18-hour days. It's a lot. As the residents are scared, we're airlocking a unit. We're letting the staff stay on the unit. They're not coming off. So it's just a lot to take. We're doing the FaceTime. We're doing the window visits. And with family, it's hard because they want to be there. They want to be involved, and we're involving them as much as we can. But at the same time, we're trying to explain to them these CDC guidelines they're like, well, this building in Hamilton Town is doing this. I'm like, well, unfortunately, we're Marion County. Like, we're sorry. Like, this is what's going on. So it's difficult. It's challenging to appease the family and keep these residents happy because, of course, they miss their loved ones, and we want to do everything we can for them. But I said we're kind of at a wit's end with FaceTime and everything else, but hopefully we'll get back to a point where we can start doing indoor visits again, hopefully.
One
But
thing that I
think-
think, though, that has really improved because of COVID is that on our end, our communication with our families has grown exponentially. They are getting updates every single day from our executive director about what is going on. If there is any changes in COVID, if we have a case, praise to God, we have not had one with our residents thus far, but we are updating our families every single day of what's going on. And to what Vicki and Patrice are saying, sending pictures of them with a teddy bear or involved in activities or just they ate their entire meal. Sending little things like that has been so helpful for families. We've kind of been stepping in as the role as the family member because we're going in to check in on that loved one and make sure that they're doing okay. We're opening the fridges and making sure they're not keeping extra food in there. Anything that we can do, any extra communication, I mean, it has built so much because of COVID. And I don't know if that would have necessarily sparked some of us to start doing some of these things if that wouldn't have been the case.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I find that almost, even though this is very tragic and what is going around us is terrible, COVID has definitely increased those opportunities for communication amongst loved ones, residents, and staff members, which I know a lot of people are really appreciative of right now.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is that the communities are still safe places to go. And I know that that's a fear that families have is that, you know, gosh, I can't place mom in an assisted living or in a nursing facility because of COVID. Well, there's a lot of separation.
Absolutely.
Activities that help keep the residents safe. And again, that's all part of CDC guidelines. They learned a lot from the situation in Washington early on. And a lot was built based on that in terms of the guidelines. And I think that the consumers need to know that it's hard because you can't see them as frequently as you would after you place them in a living setting such as ours. But you have to trust that the buildings are doing everything they can to keep people safe. And to make sure that their medical needs are being met, their psychosocial needs are being met, and that they're not just isolated in a room by themselves.
Absolutely. And they also give physical and occupational speech therapy and a respiratory therapist. So they're not just in the room by themselves laying around. They're actually being taken care of just like they going home. We find out what the particular goals are for the family and how to get them back home and get them back safe. We educate the families, you know, there's care conferences to, you know, help the families to understand what COVID's like and why, you know, you want to wait to take them back home, why the doctors are sending them in. And it's just a communication thing. As you said, you have to have that communication, Allison. Otherwise you will not make it. with these families because they're scared to death that they're not going to ever see their loved ones again. And we do it, the compassionate visits. If they come that day, they don't have to say, well, you got to wait and sign up to be able to see them. If they want to see them when they roll off that ambulance into that room, we put them right over there at that room, at that window, and make sure that they get to see them, because we don't know when the last time is, and we don't know if they're going to go home. But our goal is to get them back home, and they will make it. And they do better when they see their loved ones. They do so much better knowing that they still have that connection, that they haven't put me here to die. Because it's so much about COVID and death. Every time you turn on the TV, I try to tell the residents, I say, make sure you don't put that TV on the news, because, they're going to talk about how many people have passed, how many people haven't, and that just makes them more discouraged. So we're very sensitive to what they're watching too. Try to find things that they like to watch. If they want to watch a news channel, maybe it's something that's not, invictive with all of the CNN and all of that major things, but something that they can just find out what's going on. But it's just so much death around them. They're just afraid. And I'm glad that we're able to be available to help them.
Well, I appreciate that. I was going to say, what would you tell people right now that Vicki, you were talking about the fact that it's safe, Patricia, we're talking about what it's safe, but someone that's, they're in a situation right now that it's become clear that mom or dad needs help. Okay. And they need to have more care. What would you tell them the process is like right now, from, getting started to moving in, getting acclimated, what have you? How does that work in today's world? Anybody?
Vicki, you want to go, or you want me to?
Or Jessica can,
Jessica, yeah.
because we can't see her beautiful face because her camera's
That's
not
right,
working.
Jessica. We need you to
Probably the same guidelines. I don't want to monopolize.
Yes.
No, you're fine. And I'm sorry if I missed some of the question because I had to take a phone call about a mission. So can someone repeat the question for me? I am so sorry.
Someone someone is just their family is, they finally realize that it's time that mom or dad needs help. And so kind of walk us through the process of what it's like today for someone walking in the door for the first time, moving in, acclimating. I know we have, quarantines, all that kind of stuff. How does that all work today?
Right.
So you probably have different patterns. They're all going to follow CDC, but everyone's going to have a little bit different how you do it. But anyone can weigh in on this. But I'm just, to assuage any concerns or fears out there when that first process of that.
So our first process, we try to make it as easy and as for the family as we can. We have what we do. So when we do get a resident from the hospital or say from home, on the family. So one, I'm in communication with the family from the very first step. I'm constant. If they want to bring stuff in, we have like a breezeway that they can write their name off on it. They can drop it off. We can take it down to the room. Just like we have like Thanksgiving coming up. Families don't want to be apart. They want to be here. So we're actually doing a lot of food drop-offs. So we have extra staff here on Thanksgiving. So when they're dropping off food, we're making sure it's getting down to the residents when it's hot. We're assisting the family members to that room window so they can see them, say hi, wave, do the FaceTime on Thanksgiving. So we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure everyone's comfortable, everyone's happy. Of course, I said no one wants to be in a room by themselves or not see their family, but I said we have plenty of activities coming in to keep them busy. They're still doing therapy. They still have the nursing staff in their rooms, and there's still plenty of things. So that we have plenty of cable. We have activities in their room every other hour. There's crafts. So it's a lot going on in the building to keep their mind off of all the bad going on in the world right now. So I feel like that's helped a lot. And like Allison said, the communication has been a great ordeal. It's been so much better. That's keeping the family at ease right now.
I think too, to touch on that, I think where your question was headed, Jim, was, when somebody's admitted to a community, and I know our assisted living does the same thing, but they quarantine for 14 days. And so basically once they're done through quarantine, we do not require a COVID test prior to admission. They can come in, we quarantine them for the 14 days. And then there's some other guidelines in terms of whether or not they have had COVID in the past and they've recovered from COVID, how long has it been since they've recovered. All of those things are taken into consideration when it comes time for room placement and whether or not they have to go into quarantine. So, but typically in most situations, they will go into a quarantine unit for 14 days. With folks who don't have COVID, we call it a yellow zone. And so that's just where we can observe for signs and symptoms of the COVID-19 virus. And if they need to have testing at any given time, then they're already in a quarantined area. And then once they're out of that quarantine, then we can transition them to their permanent room or their temporary room for short-term stay.
And one thing to note too, I want a lot of families to know, if you're admitting your loved one, and like Vicki just mentioned, a lot of us have that 14-day quarantine for our new residents. They are not going to be left alone though. You do not have to worry about it. They are still going to receive their care. They are still going to receive that medication management, and all of our management staff is going to be checking in on them. They will have multiple activities to do. We are going to make sure that they have movies coming in before they get here. So as much as we can learn about that resident before they even set foot in our community is what we're aiming for right now. We want to know as much social history as possible. So we've got some
Absolutely.
conversation starters. So if we're having our move-in coordinator go in there and just sit down with them for an hour, we know what we can start to talk to them about. We've got some movies lined up. So maybe you get sick of the Hallmark Channel and you can put these other movies on.
Yeah.
So as much as we can learn about this person, please share with us, because we want your loved one to be in a comfortable setting and know that they are not going to be alone. We are going to be checking in on them, and they are not going to be 100% isolated. They will be receiving their meals in their room for that period, but we're going to be checking in to make sure that they enjoyed that meal. And if they wanted something different off the menu, if they didn't like the pork chop that was being served. So please share as much as you can with us, because we want to make sure that they are comfortable. And that's really what's most important to us right now.
We had a question on yesterday. One of the family members wanted to bring in some photos. And we told them, please do, make sure that they closed in and sealed and things of that sort. We'll wipe them down before they go. But just making the room a home-like environment, they can't bring a lot of things in. But if there's a particular picture or something that they loved or a book that they like to read, let them have those things. We want them to have some normalcy too. I think with COVID, people kind of gotten so afraid that they don't want to do certain things. But we take care of their laundry. So we're doing their laundry. So when their laundry comes in, it's inventoried right away. It's labeled, it's taken back to their room, and it's kept up with. That's the one important thing that families are concerned about, bringing things in and them getting lost. So we hit it at the door. As soon as it comes in, it goes straight in, get sprayed down, get labeled, and get taken back, and wash their laundry or whatever, to make sure that they have their personal things that they love. Yeah.
Now, this is a personal question, just for my own question. One of the companies that we have is we help people move into assisted living and to do things like that and downsize and stuff. Is that capable today? I know there was different times we have lockdowns. If my crew comes in and gets their temperature taken and all that kind of stuff, can they go move the stuff in, or what's your story today? Because again, that changes daily. So
in my community, yes. We are thoughtful about, once you come in and you're screened, what door you're going to come in. So we try to eliminate contact with the other residents, but these are apartments and not rooms. So yeah, they are bringing in furnishings and belongings. So we limit the number of people who can come in. So right now we've got a limit of 3, and generally it's 2 movers and a family member. And then our emphasis is more on a social environment once they're in. So our residents dine with each other. The tables have been rearranged so that there's more distance, but yeah, they're taking their meals with each other. We're doing activities of 10 people or less. So they're still getting to gather and having a social network. So, it's not all, we're more of a social model on the independent side than what Patrice is experiencing. So yeah, it is a different thing.
Well, I appreciate it. 'Cause
Really
like I said,
appreciate it.
you know, we always have to play what's going on, what's happening that day, you know, with where. But I know we're right now moving someone from an assisted living in Indianapolis to one in Florida. So we worked with a team to put that whole process together. So it's always trying to figure out what can we do today and what we have to do tomorrow. You know, type
Well,
thing.
and what happens today may not be what happens tomorrow either. So
Right.
that could change as well.
Mark, is that you?
Yeah, I say it definitely changes daily, and that's just the important thing is especially for consumers to know that, you know, as these regulations and things change daily and sometimes by the hour, and it's a stressful time to move your loved one, and regardless of what type of care setting they're going to, it's stressful. It's a big change for the family, and with COVID, doesn't make it any easier, of course. But yeah, with all these changes, sometimes we have to be a little flexible because what happens yesterday may be different tomorrow.
Well, guys, I can't believe it's actually time again. So I'm going to go back to a screen share. I've got about a half dozen more questions I want to ask, and I don't have time now. So let's go take the screen share. I want to go back. Obviously this was our event today. On December 3rd, one of our Life's Co-Pilot members is having a class on protecting your family with long-term care insurance. And then on the 10th, we'll be back here trying to explain how all that stuff you guys were talking about on the VA waivers and the VA and the Medicaid waivers and stuff. And then we're having I think Vicki, I think you're on this. I'm not sure about, and we're doing one again on the 22nd on dementia and Alzheimer's and memory care. So anyway, you can always go to Life's Co-Pilot, go to events and see what's coming up. So that's just one tip I want to give people to know about. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for giving me your evening this evening. You guys are rock stars as usual. So anybody have anything you want to say before we sign off? Okay.
Just want to say thanks
Thank you,
for having us.
Jen.
Everybody have a
Thank
wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Happy
everybody be
Thanksgiving
safe
to all.
out there.
Okay.
Everybody being safe. Be safe.
Wear your mask.
Bye-bye, y'all.
We don't have them on today, but we're not next to each other.
Exactly.
But
We're all over the
yeah,
place.
wear your mask.
See you later.